Hello everyone, welcome to Civilstap. My name is Akash and I'm a faculty of sociology for the past 8 years and taught thousands of students and many of whom today are successful bureaucrats in the various civil services across India. Friends, you are right now witnessing your civil services HAS examination scheduled from middle of December 2022. So as part of this initiative, we here at Civilstap has brought a special product for you people where we are going to discuss the previous year questions in a segment of 8 lectures. Today we are starting with the first lecture where we are going to discuss the paper 1 of the previous year, that's 2020, which happened in December last year. So why we are doing this? We are doing this because number 1, sociology is a very popular optional. Second, sociology is scoring. Third, sociology is a stable optional where a lot of insight about this optional can be procured from the previous year question papers. If you look at the HPPS performance of sociology in the previous years, you are going to see that a lot of students have been selected from sociology optional. सोशोलॉजी ऑप्शनल से हर साल मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स HAS के एग्ज़ाम के अंदर सक्सेसफुल होते हैं और बिकॉज ऑफ दैट रीज़न सोशोलॉजी एक बहुत ही पॉपुलर और स्कोरिंग और स्टेबल ऑप्शनल है. नाउ पिछले साल थोड़ा सा सोशोलॉजी का मैं कहूँगा कि परफॉर्मेंस नीचे आया है, लेकिन दिस इज़ गोइंग टू पिक अप दिस ईयर अगेन, क्योंकि इस ऑप्शन का नेचर ही ऐसा है दैट यू कैन नॉट प्रिवेंट दिस optional from, you can say, being the most stable optional among all the optionals in HAS exam. Now किसी भी एग्ज़ाम को अगर आपको क्रैक करना है तो उस एग्ज़ाम को क्रैक करने के लिए एक स्ट्रेटेजी आपको चाहिए और उस स्ट्रेटेजी के अंदर सबसे बेसिक जो रिक्वायरमेंट होती है वो होती है उस पेपर को समझना. और उस पेपर को आप तभी समझ पाएंगे जब आप उस पेपर के प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर्स को एक बार एनालाइज करेंगे. सो सिविल स्टेप पे हमने ये चीज़ डिस्कस की एंड वी केम टू रियलाइज दैट द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट राइट नाउ किसी भी सोशोलॉजी ऑप्शनल के स्टूडेंट के लिए क्या है जो कि HAS का एग्ज़ाम फाइट करेगा, और वो है टू गेन द insights from the previous year questions by discussing the previous year questions. तो ये जो 8 लेक्चर्स की सीरीज़ है, इस सीरीज़ के पहले लेक्चर में हम 2020 के सोशोलॉजी के पेपर को एनालाइज करेंगे जो आप HPPSC की वेबसाइट से भी डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. देखिए, यू विल रियलाइज दैट बाय डिस्कसिंग दिस पेपर आपको बहुत सारी नई नई इंसाइट्स देखने को मिलेंगी और आपके थॉट प्रोसेस को बहुत ही वाइडनिंग, मैं कहूँगा आपके थॉट प्रोसेस की बहुत वाइडनिंग होगी, जिसकी वजह से यू विल बी एबल टू परफॉर्म रियली वेल. सो इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ रिविजन, इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ गेटिंग इनसाइट्स फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस. एंड सोशोलॉजी में एक और चीज़ देखने को मिलती है कि जो प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस होते हैं वो एज इट इज़ पूछ लिए जाते हैं next years के अंदर. All right, so previous year questions can be asked again. All right, they can be asked again. So एक तो इस तरीके से ये सीरीज आपको हेल्प करेगी कि अगर मान लो प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस में अगर कोई क्वेश्चन वापस से आ गया, यू विल बी रेडी विद दैट. अदरवाइज यू विल गेट टू रियलाइज कि हर एक क्वेश्चन की क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है. तो चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. सो फर्स्ट, बिफोर गोइंग अहेड, मैं आपके साथ कुछ चीज़ें डिस्कस करना चाहूँगा कि एक आंसर का स्ट्रक्चर कैसा होना चाहिए, या फिर आई वुड से कि HPPSC आपसे किस तरह के आंसर को एक्सपेक्ट करती है. देखिए, कोई भी स्टैंडर्ड एग्ज़ाम है उसके अंदर एक 3 स्ट्रक्चर और 3 पार्ट का स्ट्रक्चर आंसर का होता है. पहला पार्ट होता है इंट्रोडक्शन, दूसरा पार्ट है मेन बॉडी और तीसरा पार्ट है कंक्लूजन. बहुत ही जनरल सी चीज़ है, ठीक है. इंट्रोडक्शन, मेन बॉडी और कंक्लूजन. लेकिन मज़े की बात यह है दैट इनको लिखने का जो स्टाइल है, दिस स्टाइल इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हाई? बिकॉज द स्टाइल इज़ द सोर्स ऑफ फ्लो इन द आंसर. If your answer does not have flow, if your answer is not having flow, you will not get good marks. So you will have to link your introduction to main body, your main body to your conclusion. And the conclusion should not be the summary of what you have written in introduction and main body. क्या कहने का मतलब है? तो देखिए, जैसे अगर आप सपोज करो कि इंट्रोडक्शन लिखना स्टार्ट करते हैं, तो इंट्रोडक्शन कैसे लिखना है. तो जब आप क्वेश्चन रीड करते हो तो हर क्वेश्चन के अंदर कुछ कीवर्ड्स होते हैं। जब आप उन कीवर्ड्स को आइडेंटिफाई करते हो, उन कीवर्ड्स की जो डेफिनेशन है वो आपके इंट्रोडक्शन का पार्ट बनती है। फिर आप ऐसा नहीं कि इंट्रोडक्शन में आपने कीवर्ड को डिफाइन किया और आप सीधा मेन बॉडी से स्टार्ट हो गए, नहीं। आपको उस डेफिनेशन को आपके मेन बॉडी के साथ में लिंक करना पड़ेगा टू मेंटेन दैट अ फ्लो इज देयर बिटवीन द इंट्रोडक्शन एंड मेन बॉडी। इफ यू कैन डू दैट, द एग्जामिनर फील्स रियली गुड लुकिंग एट योर आंसर। एग्जामिनर को लगता है कि आपने एक बहुत ही सिंक्रोनस आंसर लिखा है। फिर जब आप मेन बॉडी पे आते हो तो मेन बॉडी के अंदर आप अपने क्वेश्चन में जो वेटेज है वो देखेंगे डिफरेंट पार्ट्स का। अभी आप देखेंगे कि आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर के अंदर इस तरीके से 10+10 और 5+10+5 इस तरीके से सेगमेंटेशन दे रखी होती है। यानी अगर किसी क्वेश्चन के अंदर 5+10+5 है तो 5 मार्क का एक पार्ट होगा, 10 मार्क्स का सेकेंड पार्ट होगा और 5 मार्क्स का थर्ड पार्ट होगा। और आपको आपके आंसर के अंदर जितने वर्ड्स किस पार्ट के लिए लिखना है वो डिटरमाइन करेगा कि उस पार्ट का वेटेज कितना है। वंस यू आर थोरो दिस, you must switch to what is the demand of the main body. In the main body, you present the burden of proof of the question. मतलब वो क्वेश्चन एग्जैक्टली आपसे क्या डिमांड कर रहा है, आप वो चीज़ बताएंगे आपके मेन बॉडी के बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ के अंदर। लेकिन आप मेन बॉडी कंप्लीट करने के बाद, क्वेश्चन को जस्टिफाई करने के बाद स्ट्रेट अवे कंक्लूजन में नहीं जाएंगे। आप अपनी मेन बॉडी को हमेशा कंक्लूड करेंगे एक ऐसी लाइन के साथ जो आपके कंक्लूजन का हिस्सा है, या जो आपके कंक्लूजन के टूवर्ड्स इशारा कर पाए कि ये अब कंक्लूड कर रहा है या ये एक नई चीज़ हमें देकर इस क्वेश्चन को ख़त्म करेगा। कंक्लूजन में कभी भी आप इंट्रोडक्शन और मेन बॉडी की समरी नहीं लिखेंगे। नेवर समराइज व्हाट यू हैव रिटन इन इंट्रो एंड मेन बॉडी। मतलब आप सिर्फ अपना स्पेस वेस्ट कर रहे हो। यू आर नॉट गिविंग मी एनी न्यू थिंग जिसकी वजह से एग्जामिनर आपको कुछ एडिशनल मार्क्स दे। नेवर एवर समराइज, never summarize, always give a new insight. Now you can conclude by giving a novel idea related to the question, or you can end up at an optimistic thought to the question that has been asked. ये सारी की सारी जो स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं आपके आंसर के, ये हम डिस्कस करेंगे आपके हर क्वेश्चन के अंदर। और इस सीरीज़ के अंदर हमारा मेन एम्फेसिस रहेगा कि हम आपको क्वेश्चन में कीवर्ड्स आइडेंटिफाई करना सिखा पाएँ, हम आपके अंदर आपको क्वेश्चन में इंट्रोडक्शन लिखवाना सिखा पाएँ, मेन बॉडी कैसे लिखनी है और कंक्लूजन कैसे लिखना है। हम इन सब चीज़ों के ऊपर फोकस करेंगे बाय डिस्कसिंग all the questions that have come in the past 4 years in both paper 1 and paper 2. So this is a series of 8 lectures. So let's look at the first question. If you look at the first question, the question says, how is objectivity different from value neutrality? Examine the challenges in observing objectivity in social science. अगर आप ये क्वेश्चन पेपर उठा के देखेंगे, इसके अंदर मार्क्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन दे रखा है 10+10। मतलब जो फर्स्ट पार्ट है उसके 10 मार्क्स और जो सेकंड पार्ट है उसके 10 मार्क्स। इट्स एन इक्वल वेटेज क्वेश्चन। सो आपके मेन बॉडी के अंदर जितनी स्पेस आप फर्स्ट पार्ट को देंगे उतनी ही स्पेस आप सेकंड पार्ट को देंगे। सो इट्स अ 1:1 डिवीजन। ठीक है। सो क्वेश्चन है, हाउ इज ऑब्जेक्टिविटी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम वैल्यू न्यूट्रलिटी एंड एग्जामिन द चैलेंजेस इन ऑब्जर्विंग ऑब्जेक्टिविटी इन सोशल साइंसेस। तो इसमें कीवर्ड क्या है? कीवर्ड है वैल्यू न्यूट्रलिटी एंड ऑब्जेक्टिविटी। नाउ this keyword is telling you about something that there is a debate in sociology, and that debate is between objectivity and subjectivity. This objectivity and subjectivity debate is resulting into the relationship between objectivity on one hand and value neutrality on the other hand. Are you getting my point? So the keyword is objectivity different from value neutrality, and where it is coming from? It is coming from the debate between objectivity and subjectivity. That means ये कीवर्ड है आपके इंट्रोडक्शन के लिए। अगर आपको ऑब्जेक्टिविटी और सब्जेक्टिविटी की डिबेट का पता है तो आप अपने इंट्रोडक्शन में उस डिबेट के बारे में लिखेंगे और उस डिबेट को मेन बॉडी में शिफ्ट करेंगे बाय लुकिंग इनटू द डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन ऑब्जेक्टिविटी एंड वैल्यू न्यूट्रलिटी। चलें आगे। So how you are going to build up your introduction? Your introduction, that is, why does this question has been asked? It is asked because there was a debate between two group of sociologists. The first group of sociologists known as positivists and the second known as non-positivists. The positivists said that sociology is an objective discipline and the non-positivists said that sociology is a subjective discipline, right? Now, in your introduction, you are going to write down about this debate that was there between the positivists and the non-positivists. You will write that the positivists are the group of sociologists who claim that sociology is an objective discipline, whereas the non-positivists were the group of sociologists who claim that sociology is a subjective discipline, that objectivity cannot be achieved in sociology. ये तो हो गई आपका introduction. Now you are going to link your introduction with the main body by telling that this debate between objectivity and subjectivity was concluded or was settled by the efforts of Max Weber when he gave the concept of value neutrality against objectivity. So what Max Weber said that in sociology you should not target objectivity. What is Max Weber saying? In sociology, do not target objectivity. In sociology, Max Weber says target value neutrality. You have to target value neutrality. So, what is value neutrality and how it is different from objectivity? Now, you are going to tell that Max Weber gave the concept of in your now you are writing the first paragraph of your main body. You will write down that Max Weber gave the concept of Verstehen and ideal types, where he said that these are the methods of ensuring value neutrality in sociology, which is different from objectivity. According to value neutrality, the examiner, while carrying out the sociological research, is writing everything very clearly such that even his own values are reflected when he is writing an sociological observation. जब सोशोलॉजिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन आप लिख रहे हो, आप हर एक चीज़ के बारे में लिखोगे, आपने किन वैल्यूज़ को यूज़ करके क्या चीज़ कैसे ऑब्जर्व करी. नाउ क्योंकि इसके अंदर आप वैल्यूज क्लियरली मेंशन कर रहे हो, जो सामने वाला इंसान है, जो कोई दूसरा रिसर्चर है, जब आपके रिसर्च को स्टडी करेगा, ही विल गेट टू नो आपने किन वैल्यूज के बेसिस पे क्या चीज डिड्यूस करी. He will be able to identify your values so that next time he's carrying out his own research, he can either subtract those values, or he can just write down everything based on what values you incorporated. So here there is no objectivity. You cannot remove the value component from sociology altogether. And that is why a sociological research should clearly spell out all the values that were involved in carrying out a sociological observation, and that is referred to as value neutrality. Whereas objectivity, on the other hand, my dear friends, is something where there are no values. So this is what Max Weber says, that you cannot remove values from sociology. Values have to be incorporated. Therefore, sociology, perfect objectivity is not possible. Rather, by clearly spelling out the values, you maintain value neutrality. The person who is carrying out Verstehen, he clearly spells out what values he used for observation, while carrying out ideal types, that is purely based out of Verstehen. So this is the difference between value neutrality and objectivity. Objectivity talks about no values at all, whereas value neutrality talks about taking into consideration values while carrying out sociological research and clearly spelling out those values. Is it clear to everyone? Right? So this is what, or this is how Max Weber resulted into settling the debate between objectivity and subjectivity by showing that objectivity की जगह आप sociology में value neutrality को target करोगे. You will conclude this first paragraph by mentioning that even then there's a lot of hurdle in ensuring objectivity in social sciences, or why perfect objectivity in social sciences cannot be attained. So you can, in the second part, you are going to list down all the features that are there in sociology that prevent the sociology to be a completely objective discipline, that is a discipline with no values. So, what are the things that prevent the sociology from not rejecting values in totality? The first and the foremost, you can say that Max Weber says that in sociology there is something known as Geist, and Geist is nothing but human consciousness. And whenever there is anything called as human consciousness, no perfect objectivity is possible. परफेक्ट ऑब्जेक्टिविटी पॉसिबल ही नहीं है क्योंकि सोशियोलॉजी के अंदर गाइस्ट का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, ह्यूमन एलिमेंट का इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, सो यू कैन नॉट टारगेट ऑब्जेक्टिविटी completely. And this has been agreed even by Max Weber. This has been agreed by the sociologists who have been referred to as interpretative sociologists. All the interpretative sociologists, including Max Weber, say that perfect objectivity is not possible because sociology, or the core of sociology, is human, and the human has his active consciousness called Geist that prevent the complete objectivity in sociology. Now you have proved the requirement of the question here, and now you can switch to conclusion. In the conclusion, you are going to expound upon the research methodology that is practiced today in sociology. So today you will say that today the research methodology of sociology is neither purely positivist nor purely non-positivist. That is, we have come at a common conclusion that perfect objectivity is not possible, and we cannot say that sociology is a perfectly subjective discipline. Rather, using tools like Verstehen, ideal type, and other research methodology, we have tried to attain value neutrality as envisaged by Max Weber. This will become your conclusion. You can say that complete objectivity is neither feasible in sociology nor it is possible. Are you clear? And this is how you are going to conclude your first answer. If you look at all these components, you were able to prove to the examiner what is objectivity, how it is different from value neutrality. Then you are able to prove to the examiner that perfect objectivity is not possible in sociology because of the human element or Geist, and that is why we are targeting value neutrality. And in the conclusion, you are substantiating your argument by showing that in today, sociology has research methodology which is both qualitative and quantitative. That means there is emphasis upon value neutrality rather than perfect objectivity. And this is the conclusion or complete first answer. अगर आप ऐसा आंसर प्रोड्यूस कर पाएंगे, ट्रस्ट मी, out of 20 marks you can get approximately 15 or more than 15, which is really good score in sociology. Let us now look at the second question. Evaluate the role of Calvinist ethics in the development of capitalism. This question is borrowed from the Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism book written by Max Weber. So you are identifying the keywords here. The keyword here is Calvinist ethics and capitalism. And these two keywords are related to each other by Max Weber's book that is known as Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. So in your introduction, you are going to tell to the examiner, I know this answer. You will tell by telling that Max Weber wrote the famous book which is the Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, where he tried to show that capitalism emerged from the religion followed by the Protestant community. He built an ideal type of Protestant ethic and capitalism and showed that the capitalism ideal type directly follows from the Calvinist or the Protestant ethic. The Protestant religion he talks about is Calvinism. Are you getting my point? So what is your introduction? Your introduction is that Max Weber wrote a very famous book, Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, where he showcased that capitalism is a product of the Protestant religion called Calvinism. It is the ideal type that he attempted for Calvinist ethic and capitalism that established the fact that the ideal type of capitalism directly emerged from the ideal type of Protestantism. This is your introduction. In the main body, you are going to show what is the ideal type of Calvinism. The ideal type of Calvinism includes you should not consider yourself as damned. You should rather consider yourself as elect of the God. देखिए ये सब चीज़ आप पढ़ चुके हो, मैं सिर्फ आपको समझा रहा हूँ स्ट्रक्चर कैसे करना है. अगर मैं इलेक्ट ऑफ द गॉड बोल रहा हूँ और आपको नहीं पता है व्हाट इज इलेक्ट ऑफ द गॉड, दैट मीन्स आपने प्रोटेस्टेंट एथिक एंड स्पिरिट ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म नहीं पढ़ा है. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? I am assuming you are prepared right now. You are fighting your examination on 15th December. So in the first paragraph, write down the ideal type of Calvinist ethic. What is the ideal type of Calvinist ethic? Treat yourself as the elect of the God. God has sent you to demonstrate His glory, right? God has sent you to demonstrate His glory. You will demonstrate His glory by becoming successful. These are the three core principles of the ideal type of Calvinism. Now, build the ideal type of capitalism. Money is everything. Work hard, live a simple life, earn profit. Reinvest the profit to earn more profit. The more profit you have, the more successful you are. एक तरफ आइडियल टाइप ऑफ कैल्विनिज्म है विच रिलेट्स योर सक्सेस टू योर स्पिरिचुअल सक्सेस, और एक कैल्विनिज्म है विच सेज सक्सेस इज अबाउट अर्निंग मोर एंड मोर मनी. सो यू कैन वेरी वेल स्टैब्लिश जो रिलीजन सक्सेस के ऊपर फोकस कर रहा है, जो रिलीजन आपको गॉड का चूजन बंदा तब प्रूव करेगा जब आप सक्सेसफुल हो जाओगे, वो ऑटोमेटिकली किसके साथ रिलेट कर रहा है? कैपिटलिज्म के साथ. And that's why you can see that the ideal type of capitalism is emerging directly from the ideal type of Calvinism. Are you getting my point? This is how you are going to write down the main body. Now, in the conclusion, you can say that Max Weber gave this work Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism on purpose to refute Marx. Marx said that capitalism was the source of religion and not religion was the source of capitalism. So he tried to refute Marx by justifying that capitalism is a product of religion and not the other way around, and he was justified emergence of capitalism, and therefore Max Weber has been referred to as bourgeois Marx a lot of time. And this is where you are going to conclude your answer number 2. Let's look at the question number 3. The hitherto study or the hitherto the history of hitherto existing society, जो अभी जो societies exist कर रही हैं, इनकी जो history है, it is the history of class struggle. What does Marx mean by this statement? And now we are very clear here that the keyword is going to be nothing but the history of hitherto society is the history of class struggle. This is a statement from Historical Materialism given by Karl Marx. So, your introduction will define what is historical materialism. So, you can simply say that according to Karl Marx, the history is nothing but changes in material conditions that resulted into the history is nothing but changes in material conditions that resulted into emergence of classes, and these classes resulted into struggle between each other, resulting to the modern society. This is going to be your introduction. In the main body, you are going to show how historical materialism resulted into contradiction between the different classes. You will say that. So, in your main body, you will say that the history of the mankind starts from the primitive societies. In the primitive society, there was no class, and because there was no class, there was no conflict. But as economic conditions grew, as technology grew, the first class-based society emerged in the form of masters and slaves. Masters and slaves had mutual contradiction between each other. The society further developed into feudal society with emergence of new forces of production where the masters were replaced by lords and slaves were replaced by serfs. Now the lords and serfs, which are the two classes of feudal society, they are mutually they are mutually in contradiction with each other. The third is the capitalist society that emerged with technological advancements in the feudal society, where another two classes emerged, bourgeois and proletariat. And the bourgeois and the proletariat are again in struggle with each other, which will ultimately result into a completely classless modern communism. Modern communism, where this is the future. This is the future society where the historical class struggle will come to an end. This is what you are going to show in your main body, and this is the demand of the question. In the conclusion, you are going to write down that Marx was considering the end to this struggle between different societies by giving the concept of communism. Communism, according to Marx, is a classless and stateless perfect society which will achieved in future by a class struggle between the proletariat and the bourgeois. And in such a society, everyone will work according to one's capacity and consume according to one's needs. This is question number 3. Let us now look at question number 4. Which is more significant, the principle of hierarchy or the principle of difference in intercaste relations in the present day? So, see the keyword present day. Principle of difference and principle of hierarchy in the caste system. सो बेसिकली पूछ रहा है आपसे कि अगर आप कास्ट सिस्टम को देखें तो कास्ट सिस्टम के जितने भी प्रिंसिपल्स हैं उनमें से आज की डेट में प्रिंसिपल ऑफ डिफरेंस ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है या प्रिंसिपल ऑफ हायरार्की. So what are the keywords? The keywords are nothing but the principles of caste system in present day. So in your introduction, you are going to start somehow by relating. You are going to start by explaining to the examiner the principles that are there in the caste system. So you will say that the entire caste system is based out of two prominent principles. The first principle is the principle of difference, and second principle is the principle of hierarchy. Principle of difference says that caste A is not equal to caste B, and principle of hierarchy says that you have to consider the caste system in volism, that is, no caste can exist in isolation. No caste can exist in isolation. You have to see caste A within the perspective of the entire caste system. This is volism, or this is the principle of hierarchy. एक इंडिविजुअल कास्ट एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकती. एक इंडिविजुअल कास्ट एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकती. दैट कास्ट विल ओनली एग्जिस्ट एज अ ग्रुप ऑफ ऑल अदर कास्ट इन द vicinity. So principle of difference, caste A is not same as caste B. Principle of hierarchy, no single individual caste can exist. Multiple caste have to exist together in the form of a hierarchy. आज की डेट में one principle is dominating others. Which one? That we are going to see in the main body. In the main body, you should explain what is the principle of difference and principle of hierarchy that we just discussed. According to principle of difference, no two caste can be same. Caste A is not equal to caste B. According to principle of hierarchy, no individual caste can exist in isolation. अकेली कोई caste exist नहीं कर सकती और caste A को आपको different caste के साथ consider करना पड़ेगा in an hierarchical manner. आज की डेट में अगर आप देखते हैं तो सोसाइटी सेक्युलराइज हो चुकी है जहाँ पे रिचुअल प्योरिटी और पोल्यूशन का कोई पर्पस नहीं है. देयर इज नो जजमानी सिस्टम जिसकी वजह से एक आइसोलेटेड कास्ट कैन एग्जिस्ट टुडे. दैट मीन्स द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ हायरार्की इज ब्रोकन इन द कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम्स. रिचुअल प्योरिटी एंड पोल्यूशन नहीं है आज की डेट में. Hierarchy of the caste is ridiculed today, but yes, still people do believe that caste A is not same as caste B. Today, Jajmani system is broken. The breaking down of the Jajmani system is the core reason that the principle of hierarchy has collapsed. Getting my point? So, in today's scenario, it is not the principle of hierarchy, rather, it is the principle of difference which is defining the caste system in the contemporary society, and this we have to justify in the main body. In the conclusion, you are going to say that this is nothing new. In fact, the great people like M.N. Srinivas and G.S. Ghurye did say that with secularization of the modern society, both M.N. Srinivas and G.S. Ghurye said that it is possible that the caste system will be determined purely on the basis of difference principle and not the hierarchy principle. And this is the collapse of the caste system, which has begun by the collapse of the principle of hierarchy. And with more and more rationalization, westernization, and modernization of Indian society, we are going to see that the society is becoming more and more secular and caste free. This is the answer to the question number 4 that was expected out of you. Let's look at question number 5. Examine the emerging trends in family as response to changes in economic and social order. बहुत simple question. So what is the keyword here? Family or change in trends in family. So in the introduction, you are going to define family and you are going to say that today there is no universally accepted definition of family. Rather, a sociologist known as G.P. Murdoch tried to give an elementary definition of family in the form of universal elementary family, where he tried to say that a family consisted of heterosexual males within the same who cohabit, maintain sexual relations, and carry on their progeny, which is a definition of a minimal family. However, this definition does not hold true because of the change in the social and economic order. So, what are the changes? In the main body, you are going to say that what are the changes in the social and economic order? We can use Talcott Parsons' concept of pattern variables here, and we can say that according to Talcott Parsons, economic and social order is changing by focusing upon individualism, focusing upon social mobility, focusing upon geographical mobility in pursuit of economic mobility. Today, economic mobility or economic growth is more important than social bonding. And because of all these changes in the social and economic order, we are witnessing new forms of family type that are emerging. So there is a declining joint family structure. So what are the new forms of, or what are the trends in family structure today? The joint family structure is decreasing, resulting into new emerging nuclear families. These nuclear families are also emerging new forms of families within the ambit of the nuclear family, such as there is a single parent family, there are dual career families, there are weekend families, right? So these are the changes in the family with respect to these changes in economic order. Then in the conclusion, you can say that the society is not having its individual parts separate from each other. Rather, in the effect on one part of the society is a result of the changes in the other component. And this we can say by saying that the entire society is intertwined. Effects in one social order, such as the social and economic conditions, will directly change other social orders, such as family. And this is how you can conclude. आप देख रहे हैं कि हमने किसी भी कंक्लूजन के अंदर कोई समरी नहीं दी. We haven't given any summary in any of the conclusions. All right, let's look at question number 6. How does socialization shape a person's self image? How does socialization shape a person's self image? This is the next question. So, here we are asked two questions, both are 10 marks each, where we have to show कि सोशलाइजेशन एक इंसान की पर सेल्फ इमेज को कैसे इफेक्ट करती है, और हमें डिस्कस करना है सी एच कूलीज थ्योरी ऑफ लुकिंग ग्लास सेल्फ. So here the keyword is socialization, and in the introduction you can define the keyword or the process of socialization, that is, it is the process through which people accumulate or gain values from their peers and the social members of the society. That is, a person gains majority or almost all of his values from the society through the process of socialization. This is the first important introduction line. This incorporation of values become the source of person's self-image. This is your concluding line for your conclusion. Concluding line for your introduction. In the main body, you are going to write two paragraphs. The first paragraph is about socialization, where you are going to say that socialization is the source of values of an individual. Values become the part of the character of an individual, and character become the part of conduct of an individual. An individual develop his own personal self-image by looking at his own conduct, and that is why we can say that socialization is the source of a person's self-image. This is your first paragraph where you are justifying the first part of the answer. Then you switch to the second paragraph where you are going to discuss C.H. Cooley's theory of looking self-class. You will say that C.H. Cooley gave the concept of looking self-class to show how socialization, how a person living in a social condition develops his own self-image. He says, C.H. Cooley in the theory of looking self-class says that a person passes through three different stages. The first step is how one imagines one looks to other people. Second step is how one imagines the judgment of others based on how one thinks they view them. Third step is how one thinks of how the person views them based on their previous judgments. Taking all these three things into account, a person through socialization develops his person's self-image, and this is how C.H. Cooley, through his theory of looking self-class, has tried to justify the relation between socialization and person's self-image. So this is the second paragraph that proves the burden of proof that was asked in the question. In the conclusion, you can say that the theory of looking self glass given by C.H. Cooley is nothing but it is the manifestation of interpretative sociology, and there are various other forefathers of interpretative sociology such as G.H. Mead, who agree to C.H. Cooley that a person's personal self image is nothing but a product of an individual's socialization process, right? And this is how you are going to conclude the sixth question, or this is what is the requirement or demand of the sixth question. Let us look at the question number 7. Examine the relationship between science, technology, and nature. How has the coronavirus pandemic highlighted this relationship? It's a very good question. It's a very good question. Why? Because this question is asking you a contemporary event in the form of COVID-19 pandemic, and how this COVID-19 pandemic has resulted into a changing relationship between human and nature. Now, human has evolved over the process of time by changes in the forces of production, which is manifested in changes in science and technology. So, what are the keywords here? The keyword here is science technology on one side and nature on the other side. So, how you can do that? You can do that by beginning with definition of science and technology. You can say that the science is a body of ideas which are rational in nature, and by becoming more and more rational, it becomes the basis of new forces of production, and these new forces of production become what is referred to as technology. So science is nothing but science is rational ideas. These rational ideas become the basis of technology. And what is technology? Technology is nothing but it is, what is technology? Technology is nothing but it is the new forces of production. देख रहे हैं कितना मेटिकुलसली आपने डेफिनेशन दे दी साइंस की भी और टेक्नोलॉजी की भी, right? Now you will conclude by saying that human has used these progressive ideas and new forces of production to master nature. This will become your linking line of linking the introduction with the main body. In the main body, what you are going to do, you are going to justify how the science and technology is being used to master nature. Here you are going to use Marx's concept of materialistic conception of history by showing that science and technology become the basis of forces of production, and the forces of production has resulted into human being mastering the nature. You will show that if you look at the primitive communism where it was hunting and gathering society, there was no control over the nature. But in ancient societies, agriculture emerged and humans started gaining more control over the nature. In the feudal society, we used animal power as another source of energy for to control more amount of nature. In capitalistic society, we went with emergence of inanimate sources of power such as petroleum, coal, natural gas, steam engine, steam power, which resulted into greater control over the nature. By the time of maturity, by the time of maturity of capitalistic society, the human started believing that he is capable of gaining a complete control over nature. This resulted into man considering himself infallible. However, the recent up paragraph change करेंगे आप second paragraph में आएंगे. However, the recent COVID-19 pandemic has revealed that man is so small in front of nature that no amount of effort by man can control the nature. Nature is supreme. Nature is supreme, which can be seen from the fact that the more you interact with nature and try to control it, the greater the nature start retaliating in the form of new pandemics, in the form of climate change, in the form of even more natural disasters and hazards. And COVID pandemic is just an example here. Now, you are going to conclude this answer by showing that this COVID 19 pandemic has become the source of a new debate if man can ever take a complete control over the nature. And you will say that no matter how much man tries to control the nature, man himself is a part of nature, and because of that reason, Man has to work within the frameworks which are set by nature, otherwise, the retaliatory force of nature is sufficient enough to perish the humankind. This will become the part of your conclusion. Now, looking at question number 8, the final question of paper 1 2020 sociology optional. The question is, write a note on the population policy of India. If you look at this question, the key word here is the population policy of India, where we have to focus upon what is India's population policy. So, in the introduction, you are going to begin by saying why countries go for establishing the population policy. You will say that population is a kind of resource as well as a burden, because if used properly, population results in generation of resources, and if not used properly, population will consume the natural resources, putting the country in a constraint, and therefore a country must go for making a proper population that goes for planned use of its population as a resource rather than preventing itself from being a burden. All right, so here you are going to begin by telling why should countries go for making a population policy, and you will conclude by mentioning a fact about India's population policy, that India was the first country in the world with its own population policy. This will set the stage where you can link your introduction with the main body, which is about the population policy of India. In the main body about the population policy of India, you will write that India was among the first country in the world to incorporate population planning as part of its 5-year plans. And this India did not just very recently, but in the very first event when India started taking self-control over the administration in the form of 1935 Indian National Congress National Planning Committee. In 1935, the government of India, not the government of India, because at that time it was the British government. In 1935, Indian National Congress resulted into establishment of national planning committees, which emphasized upon population to be a very important part of planning process. This was followed by publication of the book The Population Problem of India by P.K. Wattal in 1960s, followed by Iravati Karve talking about the birth control planning in Bombay, followed by not followed by but even Rabindranath Tagore was so much visionary about India's population policy that he went to the person who resulted into population planning in the US, Margaret Sanger. Are you getting my point? So India was one of the few countries that actually took cognizance of the problem that population can be a big problem if not managed properly. This set the stage for India's population policy, which can be seen in the various 5-year plans and policy documents. In the first and second 5-year plan, the population was merely seen as a problem of high numbers, and this resulted into limited budgetary support from the government to the population. Limited budgetary support from the government to control the population. In the third 5-year plan, we established population planning camps, expecting that the people will automatically come for population control, but people didn't come. In the fourth 5-year plan, we followed the cafeteria approach, where we resulted into birth control clinics, where we provided ample of different options to the people that they can come and they can follow those options, like such as copper tea, such as contraceptive pills, all right, vasectomy, tubectomy, as different products available just like in a cafeteria which people can choose from to control the population. This is the fourth 5-year plan where we followed the cafeteria approach. But all through these years, we have just targeted population problem as the problem of numbers, and that is why even till 1990s, we witnessed that our population policy was failing. How did we how did we change then? In 1991, we started giving a serious thought to population control, and we resulted into establishment of the Karuna Karan Committee. The Karuna Karan Committee gave certain recommendations, which resulted into 2020 new population policy that linked the poverty with population growth, and therefore since 2000, India's or government of India's population policy or population control approach has drastically changed, only to focus upon the population growth as a result of poverty. Now today, instead of camp approach, cafeteria approach, we are more focusing upon controlling the poverty, because after Corona Current Committee's recommendation, we have realized that population problem of India is not a problem of numbers, it is because of poverty that people are considering more number of children as the source of greater income. And new population policy, which is based on Corona Current Committee, is actually a product of India's or government of India's change of approach to poverty as the source of population growth. Now, this is where you have written a significant amount of information about India's population policy. You are going to write certain things about the new population policy of 2000, and then you will move to conclusion. In the conclusion, you are going to say that contemporarily, because of the change in 2000 by the new population policy, it has been given us a mixed successful result. India has achieved the total fertility replacement rate of 2.1, which is a progressive outcome. Yes, yet we are witnessing a lot of unemployment in our country, which is putting the population not as a resource but as a burden by wasting the demographic dividend. This will become the part of your conclusion. Are you getting my point? And this is how you are going to conclude eighth question. देखिए, 8 सवाल में से आपको 5 करने होते हैं। पहला मैंडेटरी होता है, बाकी जो 7 हैं उनमें से 4 सेलेक्ट करने होते हैं। मैंने आपको पूरे सातों के सातों और पहले क्वेश्चन 8 क्वेश्चंस के सॉल्यूशंस दिए हैं। By making you think upon how to write an introduction, how to write a main body and how to write a conclusion. किसी भी क्वेश्चन में हमने ये नहीं बोला हैंड्स अबव इट इज रिटन, हमने कंक्लूजन में कहीं पे भी समराइज नहीं किया है, हमेशा एक नया थॉट दिया है विच इज रिलेटेड टू द इंट्रोडक्शन एंड द मेन बॉडी, एंड दिस माय डियर फ्रेंड्स इज एक्सपेक्टेड आउट ऑफ यू टू रेप्लिकेट इन योर पेपर. So this was the first lecture in a series of 8 lectures where we are discussing the 8 paper 1 and paper 2 question papers that came in the previous 4 years. I hope it was a good learning experience for you. Stay tuned to Civilstap for the next video. See you soon in the next video where we'll be discussing the sociology paper 2 of 2020. Wish you all the best. Keep working hard, striving hard for your success. This is Akash. Thank you.